Kia ora koutou, welcome. Thanks for joining us on your busy Friday lunchtime. And yeah, we've got about 220 people registered for this webinar. I thought everybody would be sick to death of webinars now, but and all webinared out. But it's great to have so many people interested, and it looks like from the poll we've got around a third homeowners and public just wanting to find out about how to make a super home, and we've got about 2/3 industry participants. Yeah, so welcome. Yeah, so what makes a super home? I think there's a lot that goes into making a super home, and it's a big question. So we're not going to cover it today. We're going to have a series of webinars, and this is the first of several. And our guests today, I'll introduce shortly, are going to speak about a different topic at each of the forthcoming events. They may not be webinars. They may be in-person events or hybrid events where we have webinars, and also we're super keen to get back to meeting people in person, and I much prefer in-person events where you can network and you can actually talk to some humans and share a beer. So that's how we're going to roll. And yeah, so what makes a super home? We've just set up a new feature on our website for a chat, and people have been asking questions and saying, well, can you just give me a list of things that we can do to a standard building company group home build, and to soup it up, to make it a super home. And I said, well, no, well, we can, that's no problem, but it's not the best way to look at it, because and I said, well, and one of the questions specifically that I'm asking about air tightness and ventilation, and then the question was, can you just tell me the sort of correct build up on the wall to avoid condensation, and if I don't have ventilation? And I had to say, well, you have to have ventilation. And particularly if you're going to do an airtight layer, a moisture control layer in the wall, it's a package deal. You have to have both. And but you really need to start from the ground up, and you need to not think about how I can tinker with bits and pieces and change things to make it better from a standard building code minimum build. It's we affectionately call those type of homes shitboxes, and it's kind of like polishing a turd to try and that's not the right place to start. So it's, I think, about the people that you involve in the project, and that's what makes a super home, the super team. And that starts with design, and a super designer, a super builder, super consultants, super suppliers, and everybody who participates in the creation of a super home. And that's the way to guarantee that you're going to get the best result. In New Zealand, we marginalise design. It's often, well, we'll skip that part and we'll go straight to a home building company, and that's the majority of homes that are built in New Zealand. So what that means is innovation is missing, and we're stuck in our tracks. We're not progressing, and that's a problem. And a lot of the time, homeowners don't realise, and they think that a building code home is going to be a safe, at the right target, and that's just what it is. It is used as a target. They don't know that it's the worst possible home that you're legally allowed to build. Building code is meant to be a level of protection and keep us healthy, but that's a fallacy, and I think we all know that, and that's why I think you've joined this, most people have joined this call, so we don't really need to dwell on that. And I want to sort of today give everybody some real takeaways and some tangible things that we can do, and to do things, start doing things better. So it's probably even worse than that. People people may even do their research and find out a lot of the good things that are required, but in actual fact, sometimes the builders and even the architects try and talk them out of it. And yeah, so we've got a long way to go, and I think we're just at the bottom. We've got a mountain to climb, and we're just starting. So our esteemed team of superheroes we have today. Obviously, I didn't introduce myself properly. I'm Bob Burnett, and I'm a designer, and together with Martin Riley, we created the Superhome movement, and that's about 6-7 years ago now. And Dan Saunders was one of our early super builders who joined, and Dan will talk a little bit later. Each one of these people will introduce their topics and really for the forthcoming event that will follow. We're going to do one a month over the next 3 or 4 months, and there's other people on the list too that aren't pictured here. So Martin Riley will do a talk on heating and ventilation, and there's a few others. So Damien McGill will talk about his role as an engineer and as a consultant, and he's become done a passive house training and become a passive house consultant. Damien was responsible for project managing the Healthy Home Guide, the Healthy Home Design Guide, which is the industry version, and then we kind of condensed that down for the public into what was called the Healthy Home Guide. And Martin Ball, Windows, NK Windows, Martin's and NK Windows have been long-time supporters of the Superhome movement, and they have recently decided to continue their partnership as a premium, platinum partner. So Martin's going to talk to us about Windows, and Windows is a really great place to start because around about half the heat is lost out the windows, and we've not done Windows very well in New Zealand. So be good to hear Martin, and then later on hear a whole session on Windows. We've done it before and they've been incredibly popular. We a couple of 3 years ago, we did events around the country, and we had 150 people attend in Christchurch and about 80 in Auckland and Wellington, a similar amount. So there's a lot of interest in how to create better windows, and it's an area where we really need to pull up our socks. So what I'm going to try and cover quite quickly is these things. So we'll talk about why do we need super homes. I think, I won't dwell on this because most people will know what makes a super home. And I've already suggested that who is really important, your team of superheroes. And so how do we keep it simple? Keep it super simple is something that we've decided from an early stage with Superhome movement, and just go straight to the solutions. And if you don't want to get into the rigmarole of doing a certification or a rating, and you just want to find out, here's a list of things that are really important that I need to do. What is the Superhome movement? What we do, our tours, our events, and research and development, and how to get involved. The best way to learn about what the Superhome movement is and the benefits of being involved and what we do is to actually just get involved. Don't lurk in the shadows, just come and join us and you'll learn more and more quickly that way. So yeah, so I think one of the main reasons we're doing this is health, and we did the Healthy Home Guide, and Catherine Leitner from Aspen, New Zealand, does a really good job of explaining the pressing and urgent need and the sort of dire consequences of unhealthy homes in New Zealand. Nothing else matters if you can't breathe. So Catherine's done a lot, and a documentary and some videos. And later on, if we share this presentation, there'll be little videos as part of it, so you can listen to what Catherine talks about. So I already mentioned that we assume that a brand new home is going to be the latest technology, but it's actually a couple of decades out of date. And I think the urgency is building, and people's attitudes are changing to climate change, and we're going to have to do all we can to mitigate climate change. But the other side of the coin is we're actually going to have to think about adaptation and building for a warmer climate, building homes that don't overheat, that have appropriate shading where we build. So we're building in places that aren't going to be inundated if we have sea level rise and things like that. There's many parts to a super home, and I really think of a super home as a collection of systems and how those systems work together and interrelate. And it is complex. And I think if anything, in New Zealand we kind of dumb it down too much, and we kind of don't know what we don't know. And the question on the chat about what are the things I need to do to make a super home, it's like, well, yeah, we can talk about a list of things, but if you think about it, a list of ingredients is only part of making a cake. You need the recipe, you need the talented chef as well. So it is wildly complex, and you have to engage with the right people to get a super home. So HEROES is an acronym that we came up with: healthy, efficient, resilient, on purpose, environmental, sustainable. So it's not just about those things, but all of those things, I think, come from good design, and design is really where it starts. You could have a zero energy, carbon negative home, but if it's not designed to function well and flow well, and if it's not attractive, it's not going to be popular. So design is where we start. The KISS principle. So part of the good work that Damien and some other contributors, there was about 70 contributors to the Healthy Home Guide, they came up with this thing called the design matrix, and the idea of having the minimum healthy home, or the sort of base level that you wouldn't want to go below, which is much better than building code, incidentally, and better and best. Best in terms of thermal efficiency might be the Passive House standard, for example. So a lot of people talk about Passive House, and it's a great standard to aim for, and but for some people it's just too lofty a target, and they think, well, I can't afford triple glazed windows, or some people think they can't even afford to do the process of the analysis, the modelling, and the certification. And everybody's on a tight budget, it seems, and struggling to just get a roof over their head. So the idea of that being, in the future, it's definitely where we all want to be as quickly as possible, but there needs to be a pathway to get there. Otherwise, if it's too hard, people will just give up. So one thing that we did recently is we were actually contacted by Christchurch City Council and they were thinking about a really super great idea of giving a sustainability incentive for people, $10,000 off the development contribution if you can prove that you're going to do a sustainable home. And they were thinking about, okay, how do we do that? What sort of rating or certification? And I said, well, probably what you want to do is not limit it to those tools, and suggested, well, let's just have a checklist, these 7 things, if you do those, then you're eligible for this rebate on your this incentive. And so that's got us thinking about updating our design matrix and just always thinking about how simple can we make it, because if it's not simple, if it's not easy, people just aren't going to do it. So I think that's been really useful for us, and probably very shortly you'll see the next edition of the design matrix come out, and that's kind of been the birth of that, and also an updated version, the second edition of the Healthy Home Guide later in the year. So a really good place to start is just thinking about size and just building what you need, and don't build extra bedrooms if you're not going to use them every day, and just having an efficient layout. And so if we can do that, we can reduce the amount of materials and the embodied energy in what we're building, but it's also the operational energy is going to be less to heat a smaller space. And there is a trend with homes to go from to make them more efficient and more spatially aware, and I think we've gone from around about an average of 200 down to about 150 square meters over the last 5 years. For a while there, we were notorious for building some of the biggest homes in the world. So, you know, you can save that way, and then you can put more into the quality and into the efficiency of the home as a result of having some surplus funds from having a smaller footprint. There's less to maintain as well as less to heat. So optimizing the design in terms of the orientation, and thinking about, before you think about, do I want double glazed, triple glazed windows? You know, what are the elements of the building, and what's the specifications of the building? Well, you really need to think about the proportion and the location of those windows quite carefully. You know, we prefer to have no windows on the south because there's never going to be any sun coming in there, but you might want some windows on the south for the view, or for getting some light in. So there's a raft of things to think about, and I think the fabric first approach is a really good place to start. You know, Passive House talks about that, and the building envelope and the thermal specs, and just limiting the amount of energy you use, because the most efficient energy is actually the energy that you don't use. And yeah, so that's super important. And there's always things to weigh up, and swings and roundabouts. So, and it's a bit of a balancing act. So what is the Superhome movement? So it really started in Christchurch, and that image there on the right is the first two 10-star homes, and the two-story one at the back was our Superhome HQ. Back in 2015, these were built. The single-story one's actually available for sale at the moment. If you want a 10-star Superhome, you might be able to buy that. We recently moved out of the two-story one and sold that, and it sold for a record price because of the 10-star attributes and the yeah. So that was really interesting. So if you do build a Superhome, it's going to have you're building better equity. It's going to have a higher resale value. That's proven to be the case. So you know, back in the beginning, Christchurch Mayor Leanne Dalzell opened the Superhome, and she said, this movement is great. It's about more than these two homes. It's great for the city, for the country, and actually the planet. And it's great to have forward-thinking people in leadership. And yeah, so the Superhome movement is a charitable trust, and we've sort of redesigned the Superhome movement just recently, and we thought that was a good thing and one of the biggest events, well, biggest public outreach events, is our Superhome tours. So we have around 5,000 people over one weekend visit a group of homes, and these are homes that people normally don't get access to because they're very different to the normal show homes that building companies have. And I think it's a key way where people can experience in the flesh, you know, how warm the home is, and ask questions of the owners and the designers and the builders and everyone involved in the creation of the project. And what was the power bill? What did it cost to build? And all these things. So they've been incredibly popular. Our original tours actually had 10,000 people over a whole month, each weekend for a month, and then we condensed it down to just one weekend. And this year the tours are the 24th and 25th of September, Saturday, Sunday. And we've just pushed it back a little bit, and we're going to have to again have tours around the country. It may be that the whole month we're doing things in different parts of the country, Super September, so keep an eye out for that. Bus tours is another thing that is incredibly popular, and these have predominantly been for the industry folks. So people have flown from Auckland and Invercargill and come to Christchurch to have a really wonderful, enjoyable day touring around some of the most amazing, energy efficient, beautiful homes that are being created. You get lunch in the middle of the day, you have drinks afterwards. It's very social, and it's a real electric atmosphere of people sharing ideas and meeting people, and the networking and the collegiality is second to none. It's a great event. So we're opening those up to the public this year, so we might have sort of maybe 2 buses, and that's an opportunity for people to join and get really some expert commentary from the industry along the way, instead of our public tours, which are largely sort of self-guided. And this year we're doing the Superhome of the Year Awards for the first time. There are no awards dedicated to sustainable homes and energy efficient homes, and it's really largely what's the most photogenic, you know, looking at the bling and the aesthetics. So we think it's really important to celebrate sustainability and promote sustainability through an awards program, and that's what we're doing. So keep an eye out for the Superhome of the Year Awards. So just talking now to the third of the audience, who are the public who just want to find out about a superhome. So we're introducing the idea of you can actually talk to a consultant. This one here is more like, you know, if you go on the tour tickets are $20. You can get 2 tickets and a copy of our guide with a $55 donation. This one here, it's more like the next step is really to get a consultation and have someone who can help you and provide you with important information. And again, you know, it's a very valuable 20-minute phone call or Zoom session where you can get some advice. And then the next step is to have a mentor, have someone who can actually take you through the project process and be there. First up, do a 1-hour consultation. You know, normally that might be $150. And then tickets to the tour, and also tickets on the bus. So the bus is normally $95. So with this mentor package, you get a seat on the bus as well. And yeah, I guess, you know, some people will do a first free consultation, but a lot of the time those might be the people. That's fine, you know, that's it. But I think this is very valuable, and it's worth paying the $150. The people that are you know, maybe don't have much on their plate will be the people that are doing stuff for free. The people that are the leaders and the super designers, super builders, etc. They're usually pretty busy. So to join the movement as an industry, talking to the industry folks now, if you're an architect, designer, builder, supplier, engineer, consultant, anyone who really works in the industry, you can join it as a regional participant for $500 plus just. If you're a national company, like a bigger company that is a national supply company, something like that, then $1,000. But most architects and builders are probably just working locally. If you want to become a super participant, then we throw in a few things. So you can get a free package where you can present a home on the tours. You normally pay for that, and that's really valuable because you can present what you do in front of thousands of people. You can get a discounted rate on advertising in our magazine and that sort of stuff. And there's a few other benefits. I don't have time to go through all of it today. You know, we do video tours and other things to really get the message out and tell people the story about the great projects that people are producing in the Superhome movement. So beyond that, there is sponsorship, and we call it partners because it's a two-way, it's a valuable relationship. So gold, silver, bronze. Actually, there's another one that's not here, and that's platinum, but yeah. So Dan, I'll hand over to Dan Saunders to talk about his journey as one of the first Superhome builders.
Roll on in. Good afternoon, everybody. Good to see everybody on board and coming to visit and see what we do. So just a bit of a rundown for how we got involved in the Superhome movement many years ago. Well, I've been building for about 30 years now. As an apprentice, I always knew that there was a better way of doing things, and when I started my business, I really focused on building, you know, high energy efficient homes, super homes, or high performance homes. So the Superhome movement came around, and we just saw that's the best way to go forward, is to get involved with like-minded people. And what we found is it opened up so many doors in respect to the people that we're talking to, the products that we're seeing, and the systems which helped us build better homes for our clients. So that was the best thing that we've found so far out of it, and it continues to grow as well. There's so many different new systems that are coming out on the market now. Windows get better, ventilation gets better, all things like that. So it's been a good thing. One of the things that we highly recommend doing when you first start a project is early engagement. So developing your team of your architect, your builder that everyone can get on with, make sure they can click, your engineers, and then just work on the process through designing your home. So as we move forward through these webinars, we'll be talking about getting into depth about how you build things, you know, recessing windows, insulating slabs, the wall systems, whether they're prefabricated or being built on site, things like that. So yeah, keep your eyes open for that as we move forward. So that's pretty much me, but like I say, we'll get more in depth with more topics as we go on. So I think Damien's up next, so he'll roll on in. I'll roll on out.
Kia ora. Great to be here doing this. Actually, there's another slide. So a bit of background. I first heard about the Superhome movement about the time it started from Martin Riley. Pretty busy at the time, and as soon as I was available, I got involved, and here we are now. I'm looking for my slide. It's not there. Okay, cool. As an engineer, a super engineer's key contributions are firm foundations and making sure you have a good geotech assessment that considers low damage design. Warm feet, obviously fully insulated foundations always on every super home. Structural resilience, well braced housing for no damage in a moderate earthquake. One way to do that is to upgrade the Jib Easy Brace spreadsheet and design for 150% earthquake loads, and that's a recommendation by brands. And also thermal bridge free construction, ideally no steel in the thermal envelope at all. Timber, 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 timber. And yeah, in terms of my Superhome movement contributions, I am apparently the super technical advisor. So if you ask me a question, any question, I'll find someone to answer I am the guide editor extraordinaire, apparently. I've done the Healthy Home Guide and the Healthy Home Design Guide. Also working with brands shortly to do a renovation design guide, which may be an upgrade of Brands' Renovate website. So watch this space. And I'm also doing quite a bit of advocacy for healthy, climate positive homes. You might have seen the H1 shambles that is starting to happen, where master builders, certified builders, and off-site NZ have decided that they want to slow this process down, but the rest of us are saying that we need to speed this up. We need to get to warm, healthy, climate positive homes a whole lot quicker than we are. And so from next week, especially when the consultation comes out, I'll be pushing very hard on social media to get as many responses back into that consultation to say that we're ready to go, and we need to go now, and we need to get moving on this. And yeah, picture of me out there doing it. This is my renovation, so I've become a little bit of an expert on super renos from mine and a couple others that I've got on the go. That's just before we started taping up, just before we put some of Martin's NK windows, PVC triple glazed windows in, which is a nice segue to introduce Martin.
And I'll roll on from the opposite side. So good afternoon, everybody. Thanks for the opportunity to chat with you all this afternoon. Yeah, and interesting, Damien's comment around the H1 stuff, because it's certainly a bit of a hot topic at the moment, and a lot of conversations going on just on social media, and we're getting a lot of phone calls on it. So I guess from my point of view, first thing, great start, the MBIE, keep going. So if you look at the changes that are coming up in the H1 code for Windows, yes, they're stepping it a little bit so that industry has an opportunity to adjust itself, and that's fine. But I would argue that even that is not far enough. So if you look at the changes there at the moment, we're talking about an R value 0.26, which is, you know, an eighth of a really, really bad wall, is the current standard. They're ramping that up to 0.46 in kind of zones 1 to 4, which is kind of North Island, top half of the South Island, and 0.5 by the end of next year as well in terms of further south. If you compare that to an equivalent climate zone in the UK, their current standard is around about 0.7, so already another kind of 20–30% better, and that's under review as well. So globally, we're behind. The window technology does exist. There's nothing that we need to do that we need to invent or that is new, but we do need to ramp industry capacity. Certainly in the PVC space, I know most of the PVC manufacturers in New Zealand have that capacity. While we're a small part of the market, we're all growing, and certainly in the case of NK, we're investing in that capacity. I guess the other parts to the H1 changes that we were interested to see whether there'd be any commentary around would be around the installation methods. You know, we know with the modelling we've done, the experience we have that, you know, again, there's 15–20% gain in thermal performance just in where you sit the window in the building envelope, and you kind of get that for free, right? Yes, you need to think hard about your connection systems and flashing systems, but again, it's not technology that's new. Other people have solved the problem, so it's certainly doable. And I guess the other thing I wanted to talk about today as well a little bit is just around the air tightness standards. So again, when we, particularly it's interesting working on Damien's project, yes, you can do things with glass, which is probably the single most important thing you can do in terms of improving window performance. Yes, you can do things with the thermal performance of the frame, but one of the other key elements is actually the air tightness of that, both the connection to the building system, which is important, and also the opening sashes sealing properly. So good double or triple seal gaskets, multi-point locking that is adjustable, so those gaskets relax over time. You can maintain the kind of the air tightness of your window solution. So yeah, just a couple of things to think about, and the upcoming tours will kind of expand on that stuff a little bit more. Yeah, hopefully I can't see it here, but there might be a little bit of chat online at some point and questions around that. So yeah, enjoy the rest of the presentation. Thank you.
That's great. Thank you very much, Martin. Yeah, so the building code changes just on the windows. Improving the R value is only one piece of it. You know, is your window airtight? Is your window installed just as Martin's just installed in the warm part of the wall? These are important questions that are kind of overlooked. So you've got to think about everything, and that's sort of not what we're doing at the moment with the building code changes. I think they talk about going as far and fast as we can without breaking the system. Well, I'd argue the system's already broken and we need to fix it quick, smart, and we need to just get on with it instead of tinkering with bits and pieces. You know, they obviously thought that the easy thing was to change the roof insulation, because you can just chuck some more fluff in there and double that up. I would have thought the best thing to do, you can do that anytime if it's a trussed roof, I would have thought the best thing to do would be to fix the things that you can't fix later, like proper wall insulation, and you know, that's much harder. That's just me, but you know, I think Damien coined this this little meme here. You know, originally he said, "Oh, MBF put a beanie on the house," and I thought, yeah, kind of. That's a good way to describe it, but you can still have a singlet and be in your undies and jandals, and a beanie's not really going to cut it out in the cold with nothing else. And then I thought, well, I read in the fine print that you can have half a metre around the edge where you don't need to have that insulation, and you can still have the old standard of half the amount. And I thought that's completely bonkers, because first of all, heat's clever, and energy will find its way to the weakest link really quickly, and then you know, where at the edge is probably where your windows are going to be, and that's where you're going to most need the insulation. So in actual fact, they haven't put a beanie on the house. It's more like one of these skull caps, because you've got this cold bit around the edges, and they haven't thought about thermal bridging, and they haven't thought about air tightness. Or in actual fact, the reason they said they did nothing about the walls was because it was too difficult, because they need to deal with moisture management. Well, let's just deal with it instead of making excuses. And then, you know, like I already mentioned when I was sort of talking about the question that came through the chat, it's a package deal. If you deal with the air tightness and moisture control layer, you've also got to have proper whole home ventilation, which again is absent from the building code. So I think it's important to focus on the things that are absent and do things for ourselves. You know, every job we do, we should be thinking about making that better than the last one, and you know, what are we going to do next to improve, and yeah, we just cannot rely on the building code changing quickly enough, because even these very minor updates seem to be too difficult for some people and getting pushed back. It's not a good start for more complicated and more far-reaching changes that are actually needed in the future. So just in terms of air tightness, you know, in New Zealand climate, air tightness is so important. If you look at this graph here, you've got heating, space heating demand, and you've got air tightness along the x-axis. And so if you look at, you know, this is where passive houses live, you know, around less than 15 kilowatts per hour per square meter per annum. And then, you know, if you think about, okay, 30, if you're in Christchurch, then that's 4 air changes. So you're going 3 more air changes. You're going from 1 to 3 more, then you're doubling the amount of heat energy required, or halving the efficiency. So I don't think for a minute that the suggested changes are going to reduce energy by 40%. I think that they're dreaming, because you really need to deal with air tightness. And then, you know, the idea of upgrading the window, you know, Martin's already talked about this, but we need to upgrade our windows, but we also need to think about air tightness and thermal bridging. There's a massive thermal highway through this Wands bar. If you just recess the window, you can do away with that big chunk of aluminium, avoid the embodied carbon of making that in the first place, and avoid the massive cold bridge which is coming through through that point. And that's the way the rest of the world does it, and that's the way they've done it for many years. So I'll just pop back to this one here. So this is a project that we are putting a funding application in for with the brands levy funding, and looking at collaborating actually with brands to create a super app which will, it's really a calculator to calculate the cost of building but also the ongoing cost. And I've talked about this before, and we've sought funding for this before, but unfortunately it hasn't been picked up till this point. But I've persevered with it because I think it's such a it would be such a groundbreaking thing to be able to sit down with your designer or builder and be able to look at, okay, what's going to be the difference if I do upgrade the air tightness, or put triple glazed windows in, and you know, or even just better double glazed windows, and how's that going to affect my build cost, and how's that going to affect my ongoing cost for my energy cost. And then the other piece is to think about your there's a little mortgage calculator where you can put in the surplus that you're saving and put that on your mortgage and see how that affects your financial position, and it's massive. So the other thing that we're keen to portray in this app is the health benefits. And you know, if you do have a ventilation system, or if you don't have a ventilation system, you know, how's that going to affect the health, and you know, so forth. So all of the model you can change. The idea is that we can look at, you know, how many trips to the doctor or how many days off work you might have because of ill health. And you know, kids get sick, mum and dad, or mum or dad are off work as a result. I'm, you know, staggered to hear from Asthma New Zealand we have something like 34% less productivity. You know, I think we've had just over 1,000 people die from COVID, which is tragic. But you know, we have 1,600 people die excess winter mortality, so more people dying in winter than in summer. Other countries either don't have that or have that in much smaller numbers. We have the second highest death rate from asthma. This is just not okay, and we need to do much better. And I'm stoked that Damien has organised the renovation guide, because we're not going to solve all our problems of healthy home or unhealthy homes and climate change by just building better new homes. And yeah, so renovations are really important, and there's a lot that you can do, but there's actually also a lot that some types of homes where they don't lend themselves so well to renovating. And you know, I look at things through a different lens, but some of the homes that are being built at the moment, I just look at them as pollution, and you know, they're going to need deep retrofits within a decade or shortly after, and if you can actually do it. So we're just creating problems for future generations and creating bad health outcomes. And you know, it's a hugely resource intensive thing to build, so we need to be doing it for the long term. Some of these new homes that have been built today, they'll be there for 90 years, and the people will be suffering for that time. So how do we do this? I think it needs, like I said earlier, it needs to be easy, and architects need better tools. And I'm currently really excited about exploring this, or actually going back to this, because about 15 years ago I looked at a tool, Eco Designer. At that time it was an add-on for ArchiCAD, but now it's actually embedded in the project, in the program, sorry. So there is no reason why all architects shouldn't be doing energy analysis of their buildings. It's in there. You can even do thermal bridge analysis, and that's all built into the program. And the passive house planning package, there's even a export function to export your file to the passive house planning package. So this there's going to be a user group set up, and there's the email address here for Michael, who has suggested that we get some of the leaders in the industry together and talk about this and how we can have a workflow that just seamlessly fits into what we're doing as designers, because the very earliest possible stage is when you need to be thinking about efficiency, not after you've designed a beautiful house like this and given it to a consultant to energy model it after the client's already fallen in love with it. You want to know how it's going to perform before you get down that track, and otherwise it becomes a bridge too far and too hard to make changes. So automating some of that analysis for both embodied and operational carbon, with the good work that Brand's doing, and getting a template with some of that data in there, is going to be revolutionary for the industry, I think. So I just thought I'd touch on that. And I think, you know, I'm not sure how we're going for time, but I think if we have some time for questions, that's good. And I'm sure everybody knows how to use the Q&A. Got one there at the moment. So maybe, you know, some of the other guys sitting behind me can chirp in here if there's any questions that are relevant to their areas. But how much are H1 changes helping us achieve more super homes? Well, I think I've already talked a bit about what I think about the H1 changes, and I think, to be fair, it's a big thing. It's massive, changing the regulations, and the fact that they've started to do it is really encouraging. And they've also said that it is just the start, and these are small changes, and that there will be wider, more far-reaching changes in the near future. So I think we should applaud that. And I think a lot of what Superhome movement and passive house people have been talking about, you know, that's bearing fruit. We should be celebrating and giving ourselves a pat on the back and saying, well, that's great. Now let's get on and do it. Let's not muck around. We're at the bottom. We're in the foothills. We're at the bottom of the mountain. We've got a mountain to climb, and we're just getting going. Oh, a couple more questions here. So, yeah, can we replicate what we've done elsewhere? And how cost efficient can that be? Well, absolutely. We don't need to reinvent the wheel, and we are a decade, at least probably 2 decades behind other parts of the planet, and we can just learn from what others have done and apply that here in New Zealand. And I think that's what Martin Ball is doing with the window technology. Other countries, it's not new. Here, it's just we're catching up. First home builder here, when will the new version of the Superhome Design Matrix be coming out? It'll be very, very shortly. And if you flick me an email, I can let you know exactly when that is hot off the press. So if anyone wants a copy of the video or the presentation from today, let me know and I can send that through to you. There are other videos embedded in this presentation, so you can get a little bit of extra information if you download that. Yeah, some more questions here. I wish we'd known about some of this before we employed an architect. True, yeah. Specific questions, how do we join the Superhome movement? Well, just email info, how do we get a consultant? Just email info@superhome.co.nz and we can set that up for you. Eventually we'll have a landing page on our website where you can book that, and that's very, very close to being live. So yeah, exactly. You know, a lot of people talk to me about what makes a Superhome and what's important, and if they've already started the process and are down the track, then they hate me because I'm telling them what they've done wrong. If they are yet to start, then they're relieved, because you just cannot rely on the building code delivering what's required. And 95% of buildings are built to code, and a lot of the time they're just built by building companies that just pay very little attention to design, unfortunately. So, there's some more questions there. I'm just scrolling down. So if I don't get to answer all of these, we can get back to you. I'm thinking we've only got a little bit of time. I want to make sure we don't go over time. Yeah, are the various membership levels? Yeah, absolutely. So I touched on that. If you email me, I'll send you the presentation, which has those different levels in it. So there's the regional membership, there's the national membership, and we call them participants rather than members, because we want people to get involved. The more you get involved, the more you participate, the more you get out of it. So national participant. And there's super participant. And if you're a super participant, there's a higher fee, but you get to join and be part of the Superhome tours. You get the opportunity to have Superhome in the month presentations and video tours, and some discounted rates on advertising and our guide and stuff like that. So, and then above that, there's some really interesting stuff happening at the partnership level. So we've got our bronze, silver, gold partners, and we've engaged with a marketing guru. So you actually get some really savvy marketing advice for your own business, and how you can promote yourself via social media and various channels through those partnership packages. And basically, the more you get involved, the higher you spend, the more the advertising spend, and the more Facebook ads, Google ads, and that sort of thing. So that's how that works. Sorry, I meant to take a design and place it 100%, not needing. Oh, okay. So someone doesn't need me anyway. So thanks if you're sending this webinar. Yeah, okay, we can send the webinar for sure. So we've got a few in the chat, so I'll just have a look at the chat too. So could you please send the presentation? Yeah, no worries. In actual fact, I'll just send this to everybody who's registered. So you don't need to ask me to send the presentation. I'll just send that to everybody. And there's a few people asking for that. So now I think we've still got a few minutes. So I might just see if anybody else has got any parting comments, and I'll just roll in Martin. So Martin is the co-founder of the Superhome movement. And Martin will be talking about heating and ventilation at some point in the future.
Sorry. Thank you to everybody. Bob's done a great job, and as he has done all along. And I think it's really important that everybody participates and lets us know what they're looking for. What we're trying to do is really improve the homes that you live in, you and your family, improve the comfort of the homes, and we want to really improve the cost of owning that home on a day-to-day basis. And we'll be talking about more of that later. And so I just wanted to say thank you very much, and we'll let you get back to Bob.
Thanks, Martin. How are we going for time? So I think we've still got 5 minutes, but I'll just check if there's any more questions. And yeah, so yeah, so just I'm just a pending homeowner here. Has a training sessions. I'm not sure about training sessions for Homestar assessors, but yeah. Anyway. Yeah, so maybe just go to Homestar's website. So Homestar has released version 5 a wee while ago, and it's much better. So that's worth looking into. So yeah, thanks everybody, and enjoy the rest of your day and have a super great weekend. Thanks for being part of joining us, and thanks for being part of the Superhome movement. Cheers. Bye bye.